Right, very good evening to you all, or good morning and good afternoon. Various time lines you're in. Voice is gone already. Excuse me.
Got some cough bottle.
So, I've been on Zoom before, on a global gathering. I was privileged to be on about 4 years ago, I think, Wendy, when I first wrote my book. So this time I'd like to have more of Freda's part in my development and how we actually developed together once we actually did get together. So how it happened, which most of you know, is that I lost my daughter-in-law in 2018 with cancer. From diagnosis to passing was 3 months. And I raged and everything was just a blur. She died November the 18th. So it was very close to Christmas. She had 2 boys under 4-year-old. And everything was just a blur. We managed to get over Christmas and everything, but we just were broken as a family because we were very close and we had been for 13 years. And then I started to get signs on my phone. The family had said, "Oh, get one of these new phones, Dad," because the one that I had was only either dial a number or send a message, and that was all that there was on it. So I got one of the new phones, and this message kept popping up when I opened it about this Wednesday night circle, development circle at the Spiritualist Church. And I thought, well, it's no interest to me. What do I need that for? But every Wednesday, this thing was keep popping up on my phone. So eventually I thought, I just said to the wife, I said, look, I'm going to go down and see what it is. So I went down and there was trainee mediums as well as fully fledged mediums actually passing messages around from the other side. And then from there, I started to go on the Sunday night, what they call the divine service, different medium every Sunday night. And I never got any messages. But then they asked us to join the development circle, which was a Saturday afternoon. So I joined the development circle, never got anything for a few weeks, and then I started to see black and white eyes, like just eyes in black and white, and then I started to see colour. And then I was taken over twice, basically just 1 second there and the next second gone. And this voice speaking out of me. No recollection of what was said. And it was quite frightening. And they told us I hadn't got to meditate at home, and I had to sit next to the medium that was running the development circle. And she kept an eye on us. And the strange thing was that on one of the meditations, I actually saw her face in the top right-hand side of my vision, even though I had my eyes closed. And her head just appeared. And I thought, what you doing in my meditation? Go away. And she did. And the only time it's ever happened since was the very first time I sat in Gordon Finn's group. And we went into meditation and he appeared in exactly the same place as this medium did. And he spoke to me and I spoke to him. And I found that absolutely fascinating. Now, on a Wednesday at the end of the month, there's always a special on at the church. And this night it was Freda Robson with a demonstration of trance mediumship. We could take photographs. And I asked if I could take a video, and she said yes. So I took a video. And then once she started, she went into trance and she brought this woman through who changed her face. and a family in the audience recognised this face as their grandmother. Well, our daughter was there as well. And it just came into my head, that's what I want to do. And then she did the divine service on a Sunday. And then the recording, because I knew what they called her, but I didn't know where she lived or anything like that. So I'd contacted my niece, and I said, do you know Freda Robson from Hazelton? Because my niece was running a slimmers.
For me.
Which Freda was actually a member. So she pulled Freda's photograph up and she says, oh, is that her? And I says, yeah, that's her. I says, I've got a DVD for her. Would you mind passing it on? Which she did. So anyway, she did another service, and that's when we started to talk to each other. And I mentioned that I'd been taken over twice, and she says, you need to sit in my group if the other people will allow it. And it took 8 weeks for everything to materialise. And I sat with Freda that very first session, with Freda and another lady called Irene Harthill, who was the observer. So this is where Freda comes in and tells the story.
Yeah. Yeah, well, mine's a long story, and the biggest thing is I wish tonight that we were able to have the photographs, because that's the most important thing. It's like everything else, you know. I do clairvoyant readings for people, not many, but when people come, especially men, when men come, men can be always the Doubting Thomas, you know, and they come, and if I can show them the ghost photographs and show them that they're real and that they're not hoaxed, and I'm pleased that they were took in 2008, because you would have said now it's AI, but it is not AI at all. But when I show them the photographs, they actually sit like this. Oh, well, I can't disprove that. That's real. And then they change the attitude altogether. Because I'm the kind of person, I know my family were spiritualists, but I'm more interested in the psychic phenomena, and finding out how it actually works. You know, I'm not the kind of person that would say, oh, I'm a spiritualist, I hand messages over. I've done much more than that. I actually wrote a list down so they can understand what I have done. I mean, years ago I started off with my mum being a clairvoyant, which helped me on my journey. Then basically she had a spirit guide who was called Running Water. I didn't know at that time, and he actually came to me after my mum died. I was 27. But my mum had schizophrenia, and people say, oh, well, the absolute nutters if they've got schizophrenia. But I don't think that way. I think my mum was very, very connected. She saw lots of things that people don't usually see, because she was working in between two worlds. And my friend Irene actually said to me, Freda, your family have had mental illness, but you seem as though you're the most balanced one of them all. And actually, as I say, when my mum died, her spirit guide came to me. And after that, I started to go into bigger things. I actually saw my brother as solid as you and me. So that was very interesting for me, because he wasn't just, see-through. He actually came as solid as you and me. And the evidence comes when you get the evidence of what you receive, you know. It's no good me saying, oh, I had my brother as solid as you and me, because anybody can say that, anybody. But then you get the proof of it, because what happened was, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. My brother had actually been in spirit for 10 years, and he was an unbeliever. I'm just trying to get myself comfortable while I'm talking. He was an unbeliever. He always used to say to me, Freda, when you die, you go 6 foot under and you go into a little box, and that's the end of you, you know? He actually choked on his own vomit because he was drinking heavily, and it was withdrawn quickly, so he choked. So basically, he was an unbeliever. 10 years later, my Auntie Sarah, who was a strong spiritualist at that time, had just died as well. So 5 o'clock in the morning, my brother came into my bedroom, tiptoeing in. And I said to him, Thomas, I can see you. He said, can you? I said, yes, I can see you. So he came in and basically I started to talk to him as to, like me and you would talk to each other, you know, it was real. And I said to him, I said, would you like to hand a message on to your wife and family? He said, no, I don't want to hand a message on to my wife and family. I just want them to get on with their lives and to be happy. Then the funny bit comes, because I said to him, Thomas, did you know I was divorced? He said, come on, Freda, we knew long before you were going to be divorced. And I thought, well, why didn't they tell me? You know, it might have helped a bit, but they weren't allowed to tell me, right? So the next bit is we got into a conversation, and he basically said he'd been to purgatory and back. Well, I was thinking purgatory, it's like, that's hell. It's where if you were a Catholic, you'd think about hell's flames and a knife stabbing you. And he said, no, it wasn't like that at all. He says, I realised when I'd passed over, I still had a body. And I went into a deep, dark depression because I'd realised I'd wasted my life, right? He said, and with the help of the angels and the hierarchy, I have come to tell you I was the one who didn't believe, but now I do. And then he walked out the room. But in between that, when he sat down, I felt his arm and I said, oh my goodness, you've put all your weight back on, because he went like a skeleton before he died. He said, yes, I have, and I feel fine. And then you come to the proof of it, because I went to my Auntie Sarah's funeral, and I was going in the car with my brother and me cousin, actually, and we were going to the funeral. And I said to them, I said, I've had out Thomas, my brother. That was our George's brother. And I said, I described what happened, and I said, he told me he was the one who didn't believe, but now he does. So just told him that little story, and we went into the church. And in the Spiritualist church, they give a philosophy of their life, right? So Mrs. Hewitt didn't have any children of her own. That's what they said, because that was my Auntie Sarah's name. But she was pleased to say 6 weeks before she died, when she was in hospital, because I didn't go and visit her because we had family arguments, our nephew Thomas stood at the bottom of her bed. My Auntie Sarah wasn't capable of clairvoyance, not ever. She used to give philosophies on spiritualism, and then basically he said to her, Auntie Sarah, I was the one who didn't believe, but now I do. And he gave the same message to her as what he gave to me. So that was the proof of the pudding. It wasn't just me that received the message. It was somebody else, you know. So that was one of the things that happened, you know. And basically I went into bigger things, like time travel. And I can prove that as well, you know, because you have to have the proof of it. I did Crystal Skulls with Dale Walker. You know, I went to see him. And I did other things. But I also was talking to a guy called Cal Cooper, who was connected to Rupert Sheldrake. And Cal Cooper was interested in me because of the evidence I was given. The thing is with Cal Cooper, he did a book on phone calls from the dead, right? And people think, oh, phone calls from the dead, that can't be right. But I actually gave Cal Cooper some evidence on it. And then he started to talk to me about different things. And I actually had a phone call from the dead, which was proven. Do you want me to tell you about my phone call from the dead? Would anybody like to listen to that?
Absolutely.
Right. What happened was I was very much in love with this guy called Liz. I liked his mom and I liked his family. But it had gone on a lot of years, I would say 20 years later. And anyway, this night I was dreaming about Liz's mom and his sister. And I'd made some Sunday's dinner for them, and his mum said, oh, Freda, that's lovely of you making this dinner. You know, it's very kind of you. And anyway, we had a bit chat with his mum in this dream state. Then the next thing I knew was the phone started ringing, which brought me out of the dream into reality. And I went to pick up the phone. Nobody was there. But of course, the number was recorded on my phone. So the next morning I said to my granddaughter, ring that person and see who was ringing me last night. So she rang and this old lady answered it. She said, hello, who are you? And Shannon said, my granddaughter said, you rang my nana last night. I didn't ring your nana. No, it wasn't me. So anyway, she said, but you must have done because it's recorded on my grandma's phone, you know. And she said, well, who's your grandma? She said, well, Freda Robson. She says, Freda Robson, I don't know Freda Robson. And now Shannon said, yes, you do. She said she used to go out with Les Pierce. Oh, she says, that Freda. All right, okay. She says, well, how could I ring her when I don't know her number? You know? And Shannon says, well, I don't care what you say, you've rang her, right? And she says, why? She says, hey, isn't it funny talking to her after all these years? She said, you know, I nearly died a few weeks ago, and I'm sure our Sylvia would have been really worried about me. I was talking to Sylvia in my dream, then it stopped, and her sister had rang me, but she didn't have my number, you know. So how could she do that? She had no number of mine because it was 20 years on. But somehow Sylvia, who was in spirit, got her to ring my number, right? Whether she rang the number or not, I don't know, but I got connected, right? So that was a phone call from the dead. And I told Cal Cooper about it. And basically, it was in his book. You know, so you tell people things and they use the evidence that you've got, you know. So then but I was a bit disappointed with Cal Cooper because I've got some, I wish I could show you. I've got some marvelous photographs of pure evidence, because one thing you cannot do on a photograph, which I didn't know till a photographer came who'd done photography for a lot of years for one of the papers where I live. And he said, what you can't do is put something out of focus and something clear in focus on your photograph. Well, I'll tell you what, spirit can do it. And the same is like with that. With Cal Cooper, he sent me this photograph, and I'm not being funny, but you could tell it had been superimposed. There'd been a photograph of a cathedral window, right? And then over the photograph of the cathedral window, there was a photograph of half a man on this cathedral window. And you could see that it had been put on top of it. And I thought, oh, I don't need to do that. My photographs were took with an ordinary camera, right? Nothing done different with it as the same place that were done in 2008, because they would have said it was AI now. But we changed the camera four times, and we got evidence all the way. And my friend said, you won't get it. Once I said, we will get it. Spirit provided the evidence. And that's what I like. I like evidence. I don't like to say, I've got this or I got that. I like to prove things. So that's another thing, phone calls from the dead. And I did work with the Crystal Skulls, you know, with Dale Walker. Has anybody heard of Dale Walker? You know Dale Walker? Yeah. Well, he wrote one of the first crystal books, didn't he? Dale Walker, right? And this was a funny thing.
I've heard of the crystal skull. I've heard of the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull, but this sounds like a different one.
Oh, it's, if you actually look up Dale Walker, he's dead now, but these other people will understand about it, right? Because I'm not into crystals, Dan. Is it Dan? Dan? Yeah.
Yeah.
Daniel, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Daniel. I wasn't into crystals. My friend was a spiritual healer and a crystal healer, and she also was a Reiki master. She did a lot of stuff over in India, and I actually went up to the Himalayas with her, you know, where I met people like the Dalai Lama's secretary and people like that. I've gone a lot of places, Dan, because of just finding out about things and following my instinct, right? And I know you're talking, I'm just trying to think of the other guy that I talk to who does the crystal skulls. But anyway, this is a very interesting for me because I got the shock of my life. What happened was my friend said to me, would you like to go and see Dale Walker? And Spirit said to me, yeah, you want to go? So I said, right, okay, because I usually follow what I'm being told. So I just said, yeah, I'd like to go. Not that I was interested in this crystals, because I wasn't. Anyway, we went down to Buxton. It was a whole weekend seminar. And when we went, Dale Walker, and if anybody knows Dale Walker, if you put him on the side, he looked just like a Native American chief, because his features were just like, you know, you could imagine all the feathers on him. Anyway, we went in and he was talking about doing psychic surgery with the crystal points and different things, and how to seal the energies in the room and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, he said, I'm the guardian of the rainbow crystal skull. And he had this rainbow crystal skull on a glass shelf. Everybody was allowed to go and see it. So I thought, oh, well, I might as well have a look while I'm here, you know. So we went round and I got to it. And this voice said, as plain as could be, don't you touch me. I thought, oh, you bugger, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch the bloody thing. So I said to Irene, my friend, I said, it's just said to me, don't you touch me. I says, I don't want to touch him. Anyway, I went back to the hotel on the night time, and my friend said to me, Freda, don't be silly. You might not get this chance again, right? So anyway, I thought, right, I'll go back. So we went, and a lot of people had gone on to the breaks, you know, at lunchtime. So she said to me, right, go and see what you think with this crystal skull now. So I actually put my hands onto it, right? And all I saw first was this, like, I thought it was an earthquake, because I saw India the year before that was having earthquakes in it. And I thought I was visualizing that. And then I heard this voice say, we altered the DNA on children's brains long before the Ice Age. And I went, my lips started to quiver. I thought, I'm frightened of this. I don't like this at all, right? And but anyway, after that, Irene said to me, right, I'll go and make a cup of coffee for us. You listen to what it's got to say. And by then, I knew it was an alien energy. And it said, Nebraska is where you'll find me. Journeys from lifetimes to lifetimes, trying to create a circle of light. But the time is not right yet. You can see me. I am a form, but what? Very cryptic. I thought, right, okay, what? I didn't even know where Nebraska was. I didn't know where Nebraska was. And anyway, I found out that was where the Black Hills of Dakota are. And I did say long before the Ice Age, and my friend said to me, don't be silly, Freda, that's a big statement to make. I said, well, it's what he said to me. So anyway, in Nebraska, there's the biggest Ice Age plateau that was ever found, and the full mammoth was found there, right? So basically what I was hearing was right. But the same again, I like to prove things. Now, I could go over to there because I'd like to see when he said, I am a form, but what? But then after that, which was really a bit naughty, because Dale Walker said at the end, he was handing out, or what, he wasn't handing out, he was asking you, would you like to buy this necklace that was for psychic protection? He'd done it all with these crystals and all of this kind of stuff. And he said to me, Freda, would you like to buy a necklace? I think it was about £200 for a necklace. Well, I've never been rich. I've never had money. And I said, no, I can't afford it. I said, but you can have this piece of paper. And I give him it, you know, about, and that's where he said, beside the pine trees and the waterfall, that's where you'll find me, right? This alien thing. And anyway, apparently Dale Walker was friends with Keanu Reeves and Steven Spielberg. And I handed this piece of paper over, and then the next thing, it's Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skulls. Great, eh? He made a film, and I got nothing. But it was me that handed over the evidence. So that's fascinating. But there's a lot more I could tell you, you know. I mean, I would like to ask us questions, you know. I want to be asked questions, you know. I do believe in the alien energies. I do believe that everything is possible. I wished I could show the photographs because they're excellent, you know. I mean, when I did, I've never planned to do ghost hunts, you know, but there's a place in Easington called Seaton Home, right? It goes back to the 1300s. It's very, very old, you know. And when I had my development group going in 2008, I used to, you know, get people interested in different things. But I went up to this place, which it goes back to the 1300s, a very, very old building. But I didn't know very much of it. For all I live in Easington, where the village is, I never really got involved in that. So for one of the things I would do was we went to Seaton Home, took me group along with us, sat down with people who had shown how to do trance mediumship, because that's when I met Bill. You know, before that, I was doing them in 2008, which was long before I met Bill. But anyway, I used to take them into an altered state, take them into trance and show them how to do it. Anyway, we went into Seaton Home and sat down, and we got the camera ready to take photographs of evidence and things. And anyway, I was sitting and I felt as though there'd been something put around my neck, and it was a rope around my neck. And then it just yanked us up, you know, like that. And I thought, oh God, I've just been hung. And I just felt as though all my body was just, no, I couldn't control any bit of us. So I said to my group, I said, oh my God, I've just been hung. And I thought, I don't like this. I don't like being hung. So I said, right, we'll go back into it. And I was hung again. I said, that's it. I've been hung twice. I'm not doing it anymore. And I just said, we're going home. So I had a phone call of a historian, right? Because he was very interested in the history of Seaton Home. And he said to me, Freda, can I ask you a question? He said, you know, when you said that you hung, did you go through the gallows? I said, no, I didn't go through the gallows. I said, the rope was put around my neck and I was hoisted up over. He said, if you said you'd gone through the gallows, he said, I would said, you're telling me lies. He says, because you don't know anything about this, do you? I said, no. He said, well, when the Protestants, when Henry VIII made us Protestants, Easington Colliery decided to stay Protestant. But the Catholics came down and there was a skirmish on the village green, and they actually lynched 2 men on the village green at that time. Well, because I was in that building, I was picking up on that energy, you know, so I was actually home. So I never know where I'm going to get till I go into certain places, and it happens. And then, of course, I did a ghost hunt at the Macabre at Elwick, and I did that with the Most Haunted team, which, same again, until you do it, you don't realise what you get. But anyway, as I say, I would like people to ask me questions, if there's anybody who would like to ask me any questions or anything. Or am I going to just tell you all my stories?
Stories are wonderful, wonderful. Is there any way you can put the photograph in front of your camera or something, Bill?
Yeah,
any of these photographs?
I'll try and show you, because
if you hold them at an angle, if you hold them at a little bit of an angle to the camera,
because it's so disappointing that I can't show you them, because it's very important, you know. Where have I got this photograph? Well, I'll go into a little bit of the story first, right? I was invited to go by the Most Haunted team to go and see this pub. I'd never done a ghost hunt before, but I thought I'll go, give it a go. It was snowing. It was not a very nice night, but I thought I was getting a lift there. We went, and this pub goes right way back to where the Domesday Book was. It goes really far back, you know, really old pub. We went in, and basically I thought we were going to start at 10 o'clock. Well, it didn't start till the pub closed. It was freezing cold. And I might as well tell you, the Most Haunted team did the Ouija board, they did table tilting, you name it, which you don't have to do. You don't have to do anything like that. And I'll tell you now, you don't just get ghosts coming out on a night time, right? They're there all the time. You know, and it makes me laugh because, you know, I get people talking to me during the day about certain things, and which I could tell you about as well, but we'll get the rest of this story. So anyway, we went round the pub, and we were asked to go down into the cellar because the most activity was in the cellar. So we went down into the cellar, and I hadn't done a ghost hunt before, and they said to me, you have to hold hands with the other people, and I'll try and get these photographs to show you. have to hold hands with the other people. So held hands with them, and each one of them said, "Oh my God, I've just been hit over the head with a truncheon." And I'm thinking, well, I've never felt anything. It's just, I don't feel a thing. So anyway, I was standing, and the next thing I knew was this guy that was in the cellar actually stepped into me. And Ralph Keaton, who was part of the Most Haunted team, said to me, "Freda, are you all right?" I said, "No, I'm not all right." I said, "This guy has stepped into me." And I said, "I feel as though I'm blindfolded. I feel as though my hands is fastened behind my back." And he said, "Does he have anything to say?" I said, "Yes, he's very angry and he wants you out of this cellar now." And that's how he said it. And then I just felt as though I was going to faint. I said, "Yeah, I'm going to faint." So they picked me up and laid me on the side of these wooden stairs in the cellar and went to do the rest of the pub, right? So anyway, they actually said it was a guy who'd been frequenting the pub with this time and age, you know what I mean? And he'd been knocked down on the A19, a dual carriageway, you know, and you think, no, this is not what it's about. Anyway, I actually, will I be able to see this now, Bill?
I would think so.
Right, okay. So I actually went back on the Monday with 4 of us went. One was Mary Bell, who used to take the photographs. The other 2 who were with us, I taught them how to do trance. One was an excellent vessel to use, just like myself. She was excellent vessel because, you know, some people can do it, some people can't, you know, but a lot of people, if you train them, they can do it. So anyway, when I went back with this other group, you know, we went down into the cellar and we got photographs. We were in and out within 20 minutes. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We finished by 20 past. So we went in, and when we went in the cellar, I took my blue light with us because I find out blue light attracts the energies. And the lights start flashing on and off. And I said, "Look, behave yourself." So anyway, this guy that was there was a pirate. And he's about 20, and I actually drew him. So I'll show you if you can see it, what I drew. Can you see now anything about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can see it now. Can you all see it now?
Just go a bit close.
Right. I drew that, okay? Now what he was they blindfolded him and hit him over the head, and they threw him in the cellar. And that's how he's actually dead, and he still thinks he's alive, you know? But he came right up to me, and he said his name was Jack, and he said it was 1730. Then he said, "And the Rovers are back." Well, I started laughing. I thought it's Coronation Street, it's Rovers Return, you know, the Rovers are back. You know, I was giggling and he didn't like it, right? I said, "Now just settle yourself down. All I want is a photograph of you and we'll go, right?" And as soon as he settled down, we got a photograph of him. And this is the biggest thing. You can talk about ghost hunting, you can talk what you like, but if you can get an actual photograph, that's the biggest thing. Now, I'd like to go through the sequence of what we did. That's can you see those are the 2 ladies that went with me?
Very close up.
Can you see them?
Yeah.
There's one and the other, right? Then we go down into the cellar, so you can see there's nothing wrong with the camera. Nothing wrong with the camera. You can even, if you go closer, trying to get right, Bill.
Well, let me do that.
Okay.
Right, so.
Can you see on the glasses, you can even see the Guinness glass?
Yes.
And it's clear in focus, right? So then we go into the stages of how it happens, right? So we held hands, and if you just show them the photograph, Bill. We held hands, right? Okay. And this lady at that side, the left, where Bill's got his fingers, right? That lady, you can see the Jack steps into her. She starts to get overshadowed. Can you see her face is getting a shadow over it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, right. And then as she starts to fade out, Jack comes in from the left-hand side. So you can see that there's part of her face and part of something else there. Can you see?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Right? So anyway, when you get a pirate and he flies his flag, what do you get? You get the skull and crossbones. Can you show them the skull? Can you see the skull at the bottom here? At the very bottom where the blue is. Can you see the teeth and the eye sockets, teeth and eye sockets. It's
Oh,
hard with
yes. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Can
I
you
can
see-
see.
Can you
and
move
you
it a
see the
little
eye
bit?
socket.
Can you move it a little bit farther from the camera, because when it's too close, it's out of focus.
Right.
Move
Can
it a
you see
little.
the teeth in the eye sockets of skull? There?
Can you point to it?
Well, it's hard to point to it, isn't it? I
You
mean,
can see your
Just
feet.
pull it back from the camera, Bill.
right.
About there.
I'll try and get round.
How's that?
It's much better, I think.
Right. You can see there, you can see the teeth and the eye sockets there. There's the teeth. Yeah, right, okay. But the biggest thing, then you'll see him change into Jack, right? And I've got the photograph of Jack. So you saw that lady, and she changes into, can you hold
Oh,
it?
that one.
Yeah. That's Jack at the side.
Let's have a look.
There's Jack, right? Okay, so that lady changes from what she was. Sideburns, hair ruffled over, ponytail in the back, double-breasted coat. That's Jack Arrowsmith.
Wow.
And that was the lady who's first.
No, that's a weird.
Can I just show them the lady when first started? That was the one at first. That was what she was, and then she changes into that.
Incredible.
Right?
That's beside it.
Have I seen these photos before? Have they been posted on the internet anywhere?
Yes.
There.
On Facebook, I put them on.
Oh,
Facebook,
I think I sent you some, Dan.
Ah, yes, right. Thanks.
Right. But this is it.
I didn't send you the best ones.
Right. Well, I'll just show you this, though. I think this is very, very interesting, right? Because I was doing trance, teaching people how to do trance in the house. And as I say, every one of them were desperate, really, to try something, right? So Alison, the other lady who was in those photographs, she said, well, can I sit, right? I've got lots of evidence, but they're hard to show you the photographs on here because of the way that we're having to do it, right?
Freda, who's taking the photographs? Is that you taking photographs?
No, I'm the one who's sitting. You know, the people who's taking the photographs was Mary Bell, who was a very intelligent lady, very lovely lady, you know.
She was a nurse.
But she also wrote books, and she's in Durham University, you know. Yeah. She's a poet as well. Excellent lady. But with this one, if I can show you properly, what it was, Alison was the other girl that was on that photograph, wanted to do trance. So this is in my sitting room, and basically my spirit guide said to me, Freda, please don't be ignorant. It's the first time that she sat. Will you please say welcome friend? And he put his hand out like that to welcome her, you know, with his hand like that. Like say I was doing it to Bill, welcome friend, right? So if you look at this, the glasses in between myself and Alison is clear and in focus, but where you can see my spirit guide's hand and arm, if you can show them a Bill, if you can, please. Right. Can you see it? Yeah. There's his hand and arm there. It's underneath her chin, his hand. Can you see the hand underneath his chin, our chin? And then his arm's coming from out of my body. Can you see it there? Welcome, friend. His hand's underneath her face, and it's coming out of my body. But in between's clear and in focus. Can you see it, anybody? Because it's hard. Yeah, can you see it? The hand and arm? Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So the other part is, the reason why I've showed you just one of them, there's lots more. I mean, there's actually one where my daughter lost a baby on this one, and he actually tried to step into me. I'll actually try and show you where I was about 9 months pregnant. I said I couldn't get any bigger. Where we're at here. There. If you show them that one.
Where's that one where you got no legs?
Oh, well, if you look at that one, I don't know whether you can see it. I was actually getting bigger and bigger, and I said, oh my God, I'm at the last stages of pregnancy. And it was my daughter's baby who died was trying to step back into me, right? And I said, no, I'm your grandma, not your mum. You'll have to go with your mum. 3 months later, she was pregnant, But if you look, I couldn't get any bigger, and I didn't hoax that. Can you see
It's actually
Yeah.
changed.
how big I was?
Changes.
Right? Now, the thing is with that, this is what I want to show you. Alison, who was wanting to sit, I'll just show you for the colours of this. She went actually deep into trance, right? Okay, can you see her?
Well,
But all the beautiful colours.
go a bit colour, bit.
Right, I'll let you do, Bill. Can you see all the beautiful colours on it? Right? I could, if you were here, I'd be able to tell you all about it, but you can see all the beautiful colours, right? Okay?
Yes, yes.
So I'll show you the rest, which I think will make you flabbergasted. Because within minutes, I said to Alison, please come back. It's finished now. The energies have gone, right? We're back to black and white. That's the real colour of the room. Within minutes, she came back, and that's it, right?
See a flash on that camera.
Right. And that's before we started. That's the colours of the room before we started. And then Alison had all those beautiful colours around her, and within minutes, we're back to black and white. No change in the camera.
Bill, can you hold up both photographs at once so we can see the difference?
Oh, the colours. You have to get the other one if you're going to see
What?
the colours. You have to have this one
You want this one and that,
and that
one?
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, same camera, same settings.
Same
and everything.
camera,
Same camera,
everything.
same
Okay.
set.
Within
Now
minutes.
Now
Within
it's really
minutes.
obvious. Now it's really obvious. Thank you.
Yeah.
Gone, right? So can you imagine, I'll talk to you, Dan. Can you imagine, Daniel, sorry, I keep saying Dan.
Okay, I'm Dan.
Wait, Dan, within minutes, Dan, I mean, can you imagine, my friend who I went down to Buxton with said to me, Freddie, you'll never get any of this. That's stupid. You won't get any photographs. I said, I will. And you know why I used the blue camera, blue light, Dan? Because I had men come to my group as well, and one of them was called Ronnie Morell. And I was sitting, and I was told from Spirit I should get a blue light. And I think, in all the spiritual groups, they use a red one, ultraviolet as well, things like that. And I thought, right, I'll try and get a blue light bulb. And Ronnie Morell, who was part of my group, rang me and he said, Freda, I've been doing some meditation. I've been told you should get a blue light. I says, I've already got it. And it worked. It did work, right? So that was another thing that we got. As regards my spirit guide, right? I'd like to show you this because this is very interesting. I'll show you my little doll. And do you know something, Dan? I love skeptics. I love it. I really love it because, can you imagine? I've never been taught any of this. I've never, ever read any books on it. I don't want to read any books on it. I can tell you something. So many things, but I'll tell you one of the biggest things was, and this goes into the heaviest stuff. I actually know the password for the Freemasons, and I'm not a Freemason member. And you know how guarded the Freemason password is, right? I was privileged to be told it. Right, anyway, this is my little Native American doll, right? Okay. And you think, why does she want a doll? Well, as everybody knows, I worked in the pharmacy. And the pharmacists used to go like this. I don't understand how you do this, Freda, because they were very technically minded, scientifically minded, and the things I told them blew their minds. But with this doll, what had happened was I actually hurt my back at work, and I couldn't walk very well. And this day I thought, I'm going to give myself a little bit of exercise. So I actually went for a walk to the shops. I would say 5-10 minutes. And I went to a little shop called Pennywise, and they had this doll in a box in the window. And I thought, you know something, because my spirit guide's Cheyenne. And I thought, if I'd been a Native American, I would have liked a white little dress like that. I think I would have looked nice in that white little dress. But I heard as plain as could be, no, it's not for you, go. So I went back down home, I lay on the settee and I heard as plain as couldn't be, go back for that doll, right? If not for you, for your granddaughter. So I hobbled back up, got the box, brought it down home, and I thought, oh, she is lovely, you know. Opened it up, and on the side of her, actually that's come off, isn't that fair today? That's come off, because normally this would be fastened on her hand, right? And I thought, oh, lovely, real porcelain doll, right? Can everybody see that? Right? Okay. And then, of course, as I say, my spirit guide's called running water, right?
Yeah.
My spirit guide's called running water. And then when I turned the label over, will you show them all, Bill, please?
Huh.
My name is Running Water. Now, that could have been Pocahontas, it could have been Hiawatha, it could have been anything. But do you think there's many dolls called Running Water? No. So that was brought into my physical, right? And I've even got an arrow. What do you think? An arrow? I've got a sacred arrow, right? And how I got the sacred arrow was a guy came for a reading of me, and I said to him, you do archery, because I was interested in finding out about this sacred arrow, because what had happened was I was paid as a present to go and see this lady called Colleen Aston. She was half Native American and half Irish, actually. And anyway, what had happened was I was doing, my spirit guide came through one day. One day, it sounds so trivial, you know, it just popped in, you know. No, we were sitting.
As they do.
No, we were sitting and people were watching me do this. And my spirit guide came through and everybody said they could see him as clearly as could be. But he was actually, had some leather and he was wrapping it round that way. And it got to the top of his arm and he tightened it and fastened it with a tight knot. Then he did the other side. Then he got a knife out and he actually slashed his arms a couple of times. I said, oh, please don't do that. That's barbaric. I don't like to see that, you know. So anyway, after that, I was curious to find out about the tribe that bound the arms, you know. So I paid for this meeting with this Colleen Aston at a local leisure centre. And I was interested to see her because I wanted to ask questions about spirit guides, Native Americans, all this. And I thought she'll be the lady to answer my questions. So I said to her, when we had this meeting, I said, which tribe bind the arms? She said, how should I know? And this was a lady who was going to tell me all my answers. You know, how should I know? There's hundreds of tribes. How should I know which tribes bind the arms? So I actually went into the toilets and this lady said to me, I'll tell you why they bound the arms. She says they used to do it because when they went into battle, it was a perfect tourniquet, so they wouldn't bleed to death. So that's why he was showing us he slashed his arms and he wasn't frightened of it. But then after that, she said, we're going to do a meditation. She says, I'm going to take you through the veil and bring you back through the veil, right? So I went into this meditation. She played Native American music and chants and things, you know. And anyway, I went through the veil and what I got was totally different to everybody else. In fact, she had trouble bringing me back. I found myself, there was this great big teepee and there was a little boy sitting in the corner, like crouched up. But when I looked, his face was blotted out. So I knew that was me in another lifetime, right? And then basically, I watched a lot of things that were going on. And then I was given a bag of stuff and said, here's a bag that you can take back with you, right? And they're putting things into it for us. And I thought, right. They said, but you can't go back till this is done. And this Red Indian actually threw blue. I've got his bow and arrow, and there was an arrow to the north, to the south, to the east, and to the west, And they said, right, you can go now. And then Colleen asked and woke me up, and she said, what did you get? I said, I got a bag of stuff. Bag of stuff. Put nice presents in for me before I came back. And I said, but if I'd four arrows, north, east, south and west. And what she said to me was, Freda, you don't know how accurate you are, and you don't know where you're coming from, do you? I said, no. Anyway, as it happened, I went to just a caravan site for the weekend, and he's my spirit guide sitting on the floor, smiling at me like this. And I thought, oh yeah, what's he know that I don't know? And he was putting beads in his hair and smiling and keep letting me know he was going to tell me something. But I didn't get anything. So I came home and I thought, right, I'm going to look up and see about putting braids in his hair and different things. So I got 2 books from the library. One was on decorating the hair, and the other one was on tribes, right? And I opened the book up on tribes, and it just literally opened up to this page. Sacred bundles were given from owner to heir. Well, that's what I'd been given. This bag was a sacred bundle, right? And it was initiated by the firing of the 4 sacred arrows, right? Cheyenne tribe. And only the men of the tribe are allowed, right? So when this guy came for, about the arrows, I said to him, I said, you do archery? He said, yes, I do. I said, I saw this sacred arrow, I said, but it was about that big, And he said, if you'd said to me that the sacred arrow was about that big, he says, I'll say you were talking a load of rubbish. He says, because they used to use that when they were hunting, use a small arrow. He says, but to tell you the truth, I've got one. You can have it, right? And I'll show you my sacred arrow. Same, as I said to Bill, the manifest things, right? So that's actually the sacred arrow.
Oh, the tip's a bit bent.
Well, it's bent like that because for a reason, Bill, but it's coming board on here. You see how it's coming? This arrow is actually straight, but you've seen the board, but it's straight. But that is a sacred arrow, and they would use them for ceremonies. They'd use
That's actually that
obsidian.
tip is obsidian.
It's obsidian because they use that to get rid of the negative energies, right? Okay.
So it's it's 3 foot long.
Yeah. And it takes some firing apparently, but I actually found out which tribe he was from. And do you know how long it took me before I found out which tribe he was from? 37 years. 37 years before he actually told me where he was from, right? And then, does anybody know about the Kundalini? Has anybody had the Kundalini released?
Kim has.
Kim has, yeah, Kim.
George, I think.
Has George had it released? Where's George?
In the middle.
Oh, have you had the Kundalini release, George?
Yes, I have, yes.
Yeah. Could you tell me what happened with you, please? Because I like to hear feedback as well,
Sorry, I just get my microphone in the right.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically just the energy rising up through your body almost from your base chakra up to the crown chakra, and then comes out of your crown chakra like a fountain of energy. As the Kundalini rises. What exactly is it you need to know? I'm not sure what your question.
No, but I'll ask you this, George. When you had your Kundalini released, was it? Did somebody help you do it? Did you do a meditation to do it?
Oh, right. Well, I've studied yoga and meditation for over 50 years. I studied yoga and meditation for over 50 years with the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi out in Switzerland. And, it was one of the things you were taught to do, basically, is you were supposed to be celibate and, channel your energies upwards, as it were. And, as I say, as a way of developing spirituality at the time. So, I can have out-of-body experiences as well and various things like that.
No, you.
Right. Sorry, George. Well, I actually got initiated into Kriya Yoga with Hari Nanda, who was under Yogananda.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes.
Okay.
But the thing is it wasn't Hari Nanda that initiated me. It was Prajnanda Nanda.
And
He came after him, right? Okay.
Yep.
Right. But I'll tell you a little story about that. Same again with my friend who wanted to go and see about the crystals, right?
Yeah.
She said to me, Freda, would you like to be initiated into Kriya Yoga? I said, well, what's Kriya Yoga? Because I used to do yoga with her because she was a yoga master. And she said, well, it's more the meditation and it's more like connection,
Yeah.
And I said, oh, okay. So we got down, we live in the north of England, and we got down to go and see Hari Nanda or Prajnanda at that time for £1 down on the bus and £1 back. So we couldn't refuse not to go. And we stayed at our son's, right? So I didn't know who Hari Nanda was at all. And I had my little group going. Oh, I've lost George. Have I lost him? Oh, there he's there. Sorry, George. Anyway, I had my little group going. And anyway, I felt this little man step into me. And he had his hands like that. But he was singing this lovely, lovely song. And he said to my friend who was on that photograph there, he said, Alison, I like you. I like your voice. And anyway, she said to him, how old are you? And he didn't reply to that. And then he said, 44, but I will call you. So we thought he was telling his age, right? But he wasn't, right? Yeah. So anyway, he said, but I will call you. So I was going on the bus the next day to go down to London. And I woke up 5 o'clock in the morning and I was looking outside, and in my tree outside, there was this little man built up that looked like, I've got his photograph somewhere. That's Prajnanda. I'll just show you Prajnanda. That's who initiated me, Prajnanda, right?
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, this man was in my tree, and he looked like as though he was Chinese because he had this little hat on, and his hair in a ponytail at the back. And I thought, oh, he's cute, but it was knock, knock, knock on me door, and he woke us up. So anyway, I got on the bus and Irene showed me this photograph, which I've got upstairs actually. I could have showed him, of this little man who I'd actually seen in my tree. And I said, he was in my tree this morning. She said, that's Hari Nanda, who is the guru of the guru who we're going to see, but he's been in spirit for 5 years. So anyway, we went down and got initiated, which was wonderful. And we did the Kriya Yoga and things like that. And then we listened to the tape of what he'd said before we came away. And he wasn't saying 44, he was saying, got to go, but I will call you. But we thought he was saying 44, he said, got to go, but we thought it was saying 44. So when we listened to it better, we realised what he was saying, So that's how I met Hari Nanda. But talking about the Kundalini, I didn't plan it and I didn't know what was happening, right? And Kim will be interested in this as well, Kim, right? Because, as I say, how my Kundalini opened and I didn't know what had happened. Like a child when something happens to somebody and you feel emotional about it, but you don't know why it's happened or how it's happened. I went to bed this night, not long after I met my spirit guide, right? And I was 27 at that time because he came to me, he was my mum's guide, and he came to me after my mum had died. And I was in bed and I thought, oh, there's a lovely warm feeling coming in my body as though there's been liquid poured in, right? And I thought, oh, that feels nice. And then it went further and further up me. And when you have a drink of alcohol, you feel it going around your body, right? A nice glowing warm feeling. And then I felt it had come up into my arms and I was stretching my arms out and I'm thinking, oh, this is a lovely feeling. I like this feeling. And it was lovely and warm. It was coming right up. But when it got to my mouth, I felt as though I was drowning in this liquid that was being poured into my body and I was going, oh. And then all of a sudden, I just felt as though this energy had come from me cotton socks right up, and it blew out the top of my head. Boom! And I went, oh! And come back down at myself. And it wasn't until later on that I was talking to Irene, who'd done the Kriya yoga and different things. She said what had happened was your Kundalini had opened up. But I didn't understand what the Kundalini was. But it was the energy, which we all know now, and you know, which opens you up to the universe, you know, and then you start to develop better and you start to connect better. And yours too should be so proud of yourselves that you've had it happen, because it is something very unique. It's something, and you know, Kim, have you seen them? And George, have you seen them? When they're advertising on Facebook now, come and do lessons with me, and we'll, over the internet, we'll open up the Kundalini for you. You'll be, and they show you like a figure of like, you know, before you did it and afterwards, and you look like as though you lost 20 years, you know, you've got a beautiful figure and your face is gorgeous, and you've turned into a bodybuilder. That's opening up the Kundalini, and it's not like that at all, George, is it?